There is a moment in almost every bad decision you have ever made when you said yes before you understood why. You did not feel manipulated. You did not feel pressured. You felt, if you remember it honestly, like you were choosing. That is the problem. In 1984, a psychologist named Robert Cialdini published a book that mapped the 6 levers used to make humans say yes. Not the levers used by con artists in shadowy rooms, the levers used by your colleagues, your competitors, your sell-side analyst, the founder pitching you, and, most uncomfortably, yourself. The book is called Influence, and once you can see the levers, you cannot unsee them. This is your defense. Cialdini spent 3 years going undercover. He sold used cars. He worked door-to-door fundraising. He trained as a waiter at high-end restaurants. He wanted to know, from the inside, what actually worked. What he found was that compliance professionals, the people whose livelihood depends on getting a yes, were all using the same 6 tools. Not because they had read the same book, because the tools work on something deeper than knowledge. They work on the shortcuts your mind takes when it is tired, busy, or unsure. Cialdini called these shortcuts fixed action patterns. We will call them what they are: the lessons the sharpest operators, investors, and founders quietly use. Here are all 6. Lesson 1. Reciprocity. In the 1970s, members of the Hare Krishna Society stood in airport terminals and gave travelers a flower. Just a flower. The travelers, often confused, often annoyed, would try to give it back. The Krishna would refuse. And then, only then, would they ask for a donation. The donations rolled in. This is reciprocity. When someone gives us something, we feel an almost physical pressure to give back. The pressure is so strong that the gift does not need to be wanted. It does not need to be requested. It only needs to be received. That is why the Krishna refused to take the flower back. The refusal was the entire point. Once you accepted, the debt was real. The same mechanism shows up, more quietly, in every steakhouse where a sell-side analyst hosts buy-side portfolio managers. Nothing is pitched. The check is picked up. Weeks later, when the allocation call comes, the call gets taken. Not because anyone was bribed, but because a debt was quietly opened and quietly remembered. So when the gift arrives, name it, out loud, to yourself. This is a gift, and it creates an obligation. Then decide, deliberately, whether you want to carry that obligation. Most of the time you will. Sometimes you should not. Lesson 2. Commitment and consistency. In one of Cialdini's favorite studies, researchers went door to door in a quiet California neighborhood and asked homeowners to put a giant, ugly billboard on their front lawn that read, "Drive carefully." 17% agreed. Then they tried a different approach. They first asked a different group of homeowners to display a small 3-inch sign in their window. Almost everyone agreed. It was tiny. 2 weeks later, the same researchers came back and asked for the giant billboard. 76% said yes. This is commitment and consistency. Once we take a small position, even a trivial one, we feel pressure to keep acting in line with it. The small commitment is not really about the lawn or the sign. It is about who we now believe ourselves to be. The homeowners did not change their views on traffic safety. They changed their view of themselves. They were now the kind of people who supported driving safely. The billboard simply followed. The same mechanism shows up every time a portfolio manager defends a losing position long after the thesis has weakened. The memo went out. The pitch was made. The position is no longer a position. It is an identity defending itself. So before any commitment you will have to defend in public, ask the only question that matters. What would I do if I were seeing this for the first time? If the answer differs from what you are about to do, your past self is making the decision, not your present judgment. Lesson 3. Social proof. In 1964, a woman named Kitty Genovese was murdered outside her apartment in Queens. The murder took 35 minutes. 38 neighbors heard her screams. Not one called the police. For decades, this was reported as a story about urban indifference. Cialdini saw something different. Each witness was watching the others do nothing, and the absence of action by everyone else became evidence that action was not required. This is social proof. When we are uncertain, we look at what others are doing and assume they know something we do not. The mechanism is normally useful. Most of the time, copying competent people is a good strategy. It becomes dangerous when everyone in the room is copying everyone else and nobody is actually evaluating. The Queen's witnesses were not callous. They were each quietly taking their cue from neighbors who were taking their cue from them. The same mechanism shows up in every bubble in market history. .com, housing, crypto, meme stocks. The price rises because smart, careful people are buying. The smart, careful people are buying because the price is rising. Inside each fund, the conversation is identical. We cannot be the only one not in this trade. So, when a position seems compelling only because everyone is in it, that is not analysis. It is a mirror. The question worth asking is what you would think of this if no one else were watching. Lesson 4. Liking. In the 1970s, Tupperware ran a sales experiment. Instead of selling through stores, they sold through parties, hosted by your friend, in your friend's home, attended by your other friends. The hostess earned a cut of every sale. Tupperware discovered that the relationship between the buyer and the host was a better predictor of the sale than the product itself. People were not buying plastic containers. They were buying a way to support a friend. This is liking. We say yes to people we like, and we like people who are attractive, who are similar to us, who complement us, who cooperate with us, and who are familiar. The Tupperware party did not work because the containers were unusually good. It worked because the question being asked was no longer, do I want this product, but do I want to disappoint someone in my living room? The friend was the product. The same mechanism shows up when a founder takes a term sheet from the general partner she has known longest, even when a less familiar fund has the better track record and the better terms. She believes she chose the better partner, and she may have. But the 18 months of warmth was either a signal of fit or a signal of skill, and she did not check which. So when the only argument for a decision is that you like the person making it, the argument has not yet been made. Notice the warmth, accept the warmth, and then ask what the offer would look like if it came from a stranger. Lesson 5. Authority. In 1961, a psychologist named Stanley Milgram ran an experiment at Yale. Ordinary people were told they were helping with a learning study. They were instructed to give increasingly painful electric shocks to a stranger in the next room, a stranger they could hear screaming. 65% of participants went to the maximum voltage, 450 volts, marked on the dial as danger, severe shock. They did not enjoy it. Many sweated, trembled, begged to stop. But the experimenter, a man in a lab coat, would say calmly, "The experiment requires that you continue." And most of them did. No one was actually being shocked. The screams were recorded. But the participants did not know that. They believed they were torturing a stranger. And they kept going, because a man in a lab coat told them to. This is authority. We defer to credentials, uniforms, titles, and the trappings of expertise. Not because we have evaluated the underlying argument, but because we have not. The lab coat in Milgram's experiment was not real authority. It was the appearance of authority, and the appearance was enough to override the evidence of the participants' own ears. The same mechanism shows up in every boardroom, where the most senior person speaks first, and the next 12 people calibrate against them. The analysts with concerns at breakfast do not raise them. The risk officer files a note for the record, but does not push. 6 months later, in the post-mortem, 3 people will privately admit they saw it coming. None of them said so at the time. So when a decision is being driven by who is making it, rather than by what is being argued, ask the question Milgram's subjects did not ask. What is actually being asked of me right now? And would I do it if no one with a title were asking? Lesson 6. Scarcity. In 1985, the Coca-Cola Company replaced its original formula with New Coke. The public revolt was immediate. Within 3 months, the company brought the original back as Coca-Cola Classic.
Sales of the original surged, past pre-revolt levels. Cialdini noticed something subtle. The original formula had not changed. What had changed was its availability. For 3 months, the public had believed they were losing it forever, and the moment they got it back, they wanted it more than ever.
This is scarcity. We assign greater value to things that are rare, time-limited, or exclusive. The value is not in the thing. It is in the loss we have been told to fear. The original Coke tasted exactly the same in 1986 as it had in 1984. What had changed was the story around it. For a moment, the public believed it was gone. That belief is what they were buying back. The same mechanism shows up every time a recruiter calls a hiring manager on a Friday afternoon with news that the candidate has a competing offer expiring Monday. The window closes. The reference check gets skipped. The package goes 12% over budget. 8 months later, the post-mortem is uncomfortable, and the competing offer, it turns out, was never quite as concrete as it sounded. Compressed thinking is exactly when the levers work best. So when you feel urgency rising, that is the precise moment to do nothing for a day. The genuinely scarce opportunity will usually still be there. The manufactured one rarely is, which is its own kind of information. The 6 principles are not a list. They are a system. Notice what they share. Each one is a shortcut your mind takes because the alternative, evaluating every claim, every offer, every authority figure from first principles, is exhausting. The shortcuts are not flaws. They are necessary. Without them, you could not get through a day. The danger is not that you use the shortcuts. The danger is that other people know you use them. Cialdini's deeper point, the one that gets lost in the catalog of techniques, is this. The levers work most powerfully when you are tired, distracted, emotionally stirred, or short on time. In other words, exactly when you are most likely to be making important decisions. Markets that move quickly. Hiring panels at the end of long days, fundraising sprints, year-end allocations. The compliance professional's edge is not that they know the levers, it is that they know when you are most vulnerable to them. This is why restraint is not just an aesthetic for serious operators. It is a defense. Slowing down, asking the second question, sleeping on the decision. These are not signs of weakness. They are the only reliable way to make sure that your yes is yours. One concrete thing you can do today. The next time you feel yourself about to agree to something, a meeting, an investment, an obligation, a deal, pause and ask yourself which lever is being pulled. Reciprocity, commitment, social proof, liking, authority, scarcity. One of them, usually more than one, will be present. Naming the lever does not make it go away, but it gives you a half-second of distance, and in that half-second is the entire difference between a choice and a reaction. One question worth sitting with, and we'd genuinely like to hear your answer in the comments. When was the last time you said yes when you should have said no? And which of the 6 was being used on you? Subscribe. We break down one great book every week, the foundational ones on money, business, and decision-making. The lessons that compound. Until then, notice the lever, pause the yes, and always ask the second question.